We're not experts, and the opinions expressed are solely our own. We'll do our best to be factual and correct any errors that might occur at a later date. The main point of this show is taking the fork in the road towards comedy whenever possible. There will be many forks in the road. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Drinking and Talking Animals. I'm Bob.
I'm Mark.
I'm George.
Today, live from Max's studio.
The Maxudio.
Yeah. It smells just like you'd imagine in here, everyone.
It's not that
Cheetos
bad.
and ass.
It's better than the Spanktorium.
Yeah.
I use this room once a week
Yeah, that's what
Right.
we figured.
for my
Yes.
special recordings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know you could buy Jergens by the gallon. Found that out today. I actually had a cool random thing that popped up on my social media feed today, so I figured we would circle all the way back to the first time we visited the reptile show to talk about the Gila monster.
Yes.
Because a Lakewood, Colorado man died from an apparent Gila monster bite, which, if confirmed, would be the first death since 1930.
Yeah.
A man called for medical attention for an animal bite on February 12th and died 4 days later in the hospital. His name hasn't been released upon request from immediate family, and autopsy results aren't available as of yet. They currently believe that he most likely had an allergic reaction to the venom and died from complications. It was one of 2 Gila monsters owned by this man, along with 26 spiders, all of different species. They were all confiscated, and the 2 Gila monsters are going to a wildlife facility in another state after making a pit stop in Greeley, Colorado at the University of Northern Colorado so that venom can be extracted from the one responsible for the presumably fatal bite to examine its components and try to identify what made it deadly in this case.
It was probably waving his penis in front of his face.
Yeah. He's like, it's feeding time.
And it also could have been he had a heart attack.
Right, and that's
Just
why...
because
I argued a little bit because
Yeah.
this is another one courtesy of one R.D. Trimble. Because he said, no one said it better than Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction, play with matches, you might get burned. And I was like, I don't think that quote can be attributed to John Travolta's character from Pulp Fiction. That is a really, really old saying.
Yes.
In a different format. But
Very obscure line from that film.
well, yeah.
quote.
If you look up the clip, it's a 4-second clip. You can find it all over. You know, it's. I didn't even remember it. It was not one of the more memorable ones. You know, I was like more like the. I got to stab her 3 times. like no, just once, right in the heart. You know, that's the only interesting thing that I had. Unless anyone else had. George, any experiences this week? I know Archie's in a photo contest.
No, that's it.
Yeah, pay to play.
I got nothing going on.
He's a beautiful dog.
Yeah, true. He is silky.
He is.
He's silky.
He's so soft.
Mm-hmm. He is. What are we drinking today, Mark?
We are drinking Fremont Brewing's non-alcoholic stout. It has an ABV, of course, of less than 0.05%, with IBUs of 25%, and it's a closely guarded secret as to what's in it.
How do you get so fucked up?
It's, yeah, Don's Alcoholic Stout.
Fremont. It's called the Pre-Funk Before.
Pre-Funk Before. Yeah, that's how this happens. I was not involved in said pre-funk.
I know. You were late.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I was a big fan of the Dark Star in the can back in the day. That stuff is hitting like 8-9%.
Yeah.
It might be 9. That's a heavy hitter canned beer. But for a stout, delightfully drinkable even on the golf course. Like not a filling style
No,
stout.
Yeah.
But this is not a stouty stout.
Well, it's kind of like a.
You're a stouty stout. What's a stouty stout to you, George?
Well, like it might taste like a stout. This
Right.
doesn't taste like a stout.
In what way?
In no way.
Tastes stouty to me. And I thought we'd pair it up with Taze Baker Wasuka chocolate wafer rolls.
I thought
these
we
are-
were sampling Cuban Tiparillos.
These are out of Indonesia
Ah.
because
Hey.
our guest animal is found around Indonesia.
Waka waka.
And you know what?
Oh.
They're pretty damn good.
These are delicious.
I've had these. My grandmother used to buy these. You can actually suck milk through them. It's perfect.
They also have a cappuccino.
I can't believe your grandma let you do that, but
Yeah. Well, you could snort Coke through them too, but you
Yeah.
know, yeah, Grandma used to hoard all the Coke for herself.
They have multiple flavors on this. I know at least I saw strawberry and cappuccino, but I figured it was stout. And Bob's not a big coffee person.
No,
These would work well. With
but in the
what we're
format of dessert,
Yeah.
I can deal with it a little bit better. Like I'm like most people. I like the smell of coffee. I don't enjoy the taste of it so much, but in small doses, I appreciate what
Did you
it's
say
doing.
you're like most people? Because I would
Yeah.
argue
Yeah.
to say you're like the least.
Well, most people, I think, even if you don't drink coffee, you
Most
can
people
appreciate the
love
smell of coffee. Right.
Yeah.
yeah, you're not
But-
most people.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
I will tell
Whatever.
you that when I make the coffee the night before, for when she's going to work, one of her rituals is she lifts open the lid and smells the aromas of the coffees.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm making sure you put coffee in there." You're just snorting.
Yeah. Just a little pinch
Yeah.
between the cheek and gum.
Yep.
That's probably what has ruined my palate over the years anyway. Other habits. Guess we're through all that. Social media, drinking and talking animals on Instagram and Facebook. And obviously we fulfill requests, whether or not they're half a year late. If you email us at dandtanimals@gmail.com.
Yeah, we do.
We'll
Yeah.
love your animal.
Yeah, we will. With both hands.
You know what I heard on a podcast today?
No, what?
They're starting testing on a new drug that's going to extend dogs' lives.
Really?
For what? Another 6 months?
No, for like years. It's some sort of growth hormone that they're gonna
Hit them with steroids.
they're gonna slow down their aging once they become adult dogs.
Why would you want to do it with dogs and not some other rare animal?
Well, the idea is that they're gonna perfect it with dogs, and then they're gonna start doing it to humans.
I'm just wondering what the side effects.
We don't
and all
need
that
more
other.
humans.
Yeah.
yeah. They want to slow down aging.
I started doing it to other humans when I was 18.
18. You waited a long time.
It was a long time. I was a dork. Like durr. Yeah. I'm lucky I didn't wait till marriage. Good Lord.
Oh,
That'd have been
hell no.
That'd have been a really long time. George?
That would explain a lot.
George's like, I'm out on this one.
I wasn't listening.
Yeah. Do we have a
Are
break?
we going to a break?
We're going to break.
What's up, Scream Team? Max Fosberg here to tell you about a Chatter Network show called the Silver Screams Podcast. Join me and my two friends, Derek and Kristen, as we watch some of our favorite scary movies and then talk about it. Not just what happens on the screen either. Want to know how a ragtag group of friends turned $300,000 into one of the most iconic franchises in horror history? The people behind the camera are just as important and are part of the discussion as well. Every Friday, wherever you get your podcast fix. Stay spooky, Scream Team.
And we're back.
Oh, snap.
Wow.
I'm
Shout out
saying-
to the Scream Team.
Heck yeah, Scream Team.
Thank you, Scream Team, for letting us use your studio.
Stay spooky.
You get a lot of words out in a short amount of time. That's good.
Thanks. I'm somewhat of a professional.
Yes,
I have
somewhat.
noticed.
exactly.
I'm going to say he's somewhat.
They call
for
me
sure.
the pod god.
Yeah.
I thought you were the pod father.
The pod father. Yeah.
So you call
Just kidding.
yourself that.
I call myself the pod
Right.
god.
I gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if you ever need a prop cigar for one of your short films,
Yeah,
this is the one.
that is.
Like, and it's delicious. You can eat the props. How many edible props have you ever used
Yeah, none.
to resemble something that should be non-edible?
Yeah,
Like,
that's pretty good.
yeah, it does. I mean, it's almost wrapped like a cigar. It's crazy how close it is. It's fun to hold, actually. Yeah, you have a lighter in here? No, I'm joking. Man, this chocolate is smooth.
What's the secret word?
Hey-o. Getting into some basics here.
What are we talking about?
RibbonEels.
Well, we hadn't mentioned that yet.
Well, we talked about Gila monsters as making it a surprise.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, guess what the first words of the basics is? Ribbon eels come from the class Actinopterygii, from the ancient Greek words actino for having rays and pteryx, which means wings or fins. If I find another version of pteron at some point or another word for wing, I'm not going to be surprised anymore. It's a million of them.
Yep.
I'll hit a bell for that. These bony fish comprise more than 50% of living vertebrate species. That is something we've said multiple times because this isn't the first time we've been in that class. The order is Anguilliformes. That's a BS word, but that's where we find eels, and more specifically, true eels. Yep. And like we always say, all eels are fish, but not all fish are eels.
Correct.
Yes. Eel is a term that tends to end up being tacked on to anything that grows to resemble them in appearance. So you're long, slender, you're an eel. Yeah. You white, you Ben Affleck. It consists of 8 suborders, 20 families, 164 genera, and around 1,000 species. The family is Moranidae, from the ancient Greek word moron, which translates to mark in English. Right.
Wow.
You beat me to it.
Wow.
It's
I
actually...
rang the bell too soon.
Yeah, he rang that one on himself, everyone. It's actually Moranidae, which makes a lot more sense, and does actually come from the ancient Greek word Mariana, which that's what they named the Mediterranean moray eel.
Yes.
The Greeks, and if you spoke Latin, it's basically the same word in Latin. There's around 200 species and 15 genera. Our genus today is Rhinomorana, and just when I thought we wouldn't have to define rhino again until we actually cover the rhinoceros, here we are.
Ooh.
And I think
Stuff
we
on
all
its
know,
nose.
yeah, we all know what it means, right? Finally, the species is Rhinomorana quasita, or quasita, whichever you prefer. It's actually the root word of query, so you've got that going for you. And quasita is the Latin plural form of the word quasitum, which means to inquire or seek. So inquisitive nose eel makes a lot more sense when you see a picture of them.
Yes.
And while I made that up and think that's slightly funny, their actual common names are the leaf nose moray, Bernese eel, and sometimes simply ribbon moray, as they're closely related for obvious reasons. They're in the same family.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
That's amore.
Yeah. These jump off as a little bit stranger than that.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah. Where do we find them, moron?
We find them in the Indo-Pacific region, encompassing the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, French
It's Morianus.
Polynesia, and East Africa, also including the waters off of the expansive areas of Indonesia.
And it looked like the Hawaiian Islands,
No.
because one of them in there was like, it was literally on the map on the IUCN Red List, Samoa. So either they're totally
which
effed
would
up.
be French Polynesia.
Right. They're
Right.
but Hawaiian Islands are not what you would consider French Polynesia. They're, and they're located between a foot and 200 feet down.
Yeah. I think I had it at 170, but whatever.
Wherever corals live.
Yeah.
And
Fairly shallow.
That's, in essence, that's where they live.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So coral atolls, and it's funny how many of the internet things refer to a lagoon. Well, lagoons are a term that comes from the inside part of an atoll.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the only reason that they put that out there.
I think all I knew about lagoons for a long time was that there was one on Gilligan's Island.
Right, and they lived on.
There was a blue one.
They lived on an atoll.
Yeah, Bikini Atoll.
Well, 2 bikinis.
Not enough bikini. Too much bikini.
It's a lot of bikinis. Bikini Bottom. That's where SpongeBob lives. Heyo. Moving on. Characteristics. The common name kind of gives it away, but what do you guys think the strangest feature of this eel is, despite the obvious mark?
The weird little leaf-like structures on the ends of their noses.
Yes.
It's always surprised look on its face.
Yeah, they do. They're like,
What?
yeah, I ain't never seen nothing like that fur. Right. That's probably how they talk too. You know, being from Indonesia, they all have very southern accents.
I've never seen a female.
I'm going to turn into what? We'll get into that a little bit later on.
There you go. They have expanded anterior nostrils that flare out from the tip of their noses, or what I've called nose trumpets. They look a bit like a trumpet, a bulbous end, but it's relatively flat. Looks like a fish's tail, sort of.
Yep.
Very translucent, feathery. It
Yeah.
makes sense. There used to be 2 species before scientists realized that they were actually looking at the same eels after changing color. I don't want to spoil the surprise here, but these eels are considered protandric hermaphrodites.
Yeah.
They all start out male, and then some become female. And that led me down a really weird road with clownfish. And seriously, I did not realize that's how clownfish work, and it's wild.
I
And-
didn't know they went that way,
Yeah, it's
A lot of saltwater fish do sheepheads.
especially when they all live
same way.
together.
right.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I'll get into it a little bit later on, but
Yeah. Well, it's funky. The way I saw it in the world of the clownfish is the largest one in the school is the female, and then the next largest is the breeding male. Everything that's smaller than the breeding male are non-breeding males, and if the female dies, the breeding male becomes female,
Correct.
and the largest of the non-breeding males becomes the breeding male. So that is a weird pecking order, but I can kind of see that happening in the world of this eel too. But I think there's going to be a lot of discussion potentially
there's
about
a
how
lot
all
of-
this works.
you have-
Missing
yeah.
links from all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. 2 in a row.
Wow.
It's twice as nice. So why would I talk about all of that during characteristics? Here we go. Juveniles and subadults are black with yellow dorsal fins. At some point, and I think this is probably heavily dependent on their age, size, or both, they transition to blue. And I hate even trying to give a length range here because it was all over the place. And for giggles, I'd say that less than a foot would be a juvenile. Less than 2 feet I'd call a subadult. And when the adult stage hits, they transition from black to blue. And the common lengths for the blue stage was just over 2 feet to around 3.5. So you're talking 40 inches here. You can plainly see the transition when you find a specimen somewhere in between. So you'll find some that are black with streaks of blue. You'll find some that are blue with streaks of yellow. You find some that are yellow with blue noses, yellow with blue tails. It's really funky, like how many different variations there can be, but it's all the same species.
Yes.
They're just always seem to be transitioning
Yep.
from one stage to another. It's kind of like it's just the way it goes, you know. They also don't assign gender at birth. They let them pick later on.
No, they do not.
I don't think you get to pick at all.
Right.
They're all born
Yeah,
male.
yeah, exactly. Well, we all start female,
Yeah, we do.
so boom,
I'm
embryonic.
turning female. I think my tits are getting bigger.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah, might be time for the C cups. That is hot. If a male becomes a female, they will change to either all yellow or mostly yellow with some blue on the posterior.
Yeah.
But again, that could just be one that hasn't fully completed the transition in color, because it's very rare to spot these things fully exposed in the daylight. You consider yourself one of the
extremely- yeah.
luckiest people in the world, especially if you happen to see an all yellow one. That is probably one of the rarest sights in nature for this particular
And
eel,
they're very nocturnal.
They're in their
so-
hidey hole
Right.
90% of the time.
especially during the day, because Mark just said they're nocturnal feeders. So and we'll talk about, there actually is a reason they have some funky ass noses, so
Yeah, there
that'll
is.
be important later on. But again, with a big if on it, if you were to see a yellow ribbon eel longer than about 4 feet, it's probably safe to assume it's a female, but not always. And they can supposedly reach up to 51 inches, which was the upper limit of just about everything I saw.
Yeah, and that was, yeah.
Right. That's why I said there was a qualifier on all of these lengths.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, when I went through IUCN for threats, they know jack diddly squat about these freaking things in general. I don't think they're widely studied. It would be really hard to do
They're
that in their
extremely-
natural habitat
Well, yeah,
anyway.
and again, yeah, because they're very secretive.
And it
Right.
holds true for almost all the eels. I
Mhm.
mean, there is not a lot of info on any of them.
Right.
And whatever they come by is hard to get.
hmm
I mean, eels are the funkiest of fish.
Right. Yeah, and that's was my last statement here. What we're going to find today are a lot of gray areas in an animal that changes from black to blue to yellow, and I firmly believe there's a lot of unknowns here unless you guys found something more concrete than I did.
Well, I think that if I start changing from black to yellow, then you probably know I made the change all the way.
It's true.
If I start
Like,
wearing
yeah, you've been
San
a
Diego
juvenile
Chargers.
eel.
San Diego Chargers colors, then I've made the change.
Yeah. What's up with San Diego anyway? They always had the worst colors, like poo brown and pea yellow for the
those are not-
Padres.
No.
Like, is that what they call them? What's the Pantone on those, George?
I don't know.
Padres brown and Padres yellow.
So they are those actually trademarked? Holy cow.
Yeah, they are.
Huh. You ever thought about painting your house Padre brown
No,
with Padre yellow trim?
no,
How about the reverse of that?
no.
It would
Trust
look
me,
it would look badass.
I pushed, but the wife said no.
Yeah. Well, it's probably not the first time.
Yeah. Nor will it be the last.
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic time, because guess what time it is, Max? Yeah, besides you trying to ruin the flow with that stupid, sad horn sound all the time.
Guess what? I don't
Chicken
know
butt.
if I'm a boy or a girl, but
Well, we knew that.
I can't wait to get railed in my little hidey hole at the bottom of the ocean. I only come out at night. That should have been your first clue. Anyways, come on down to the coral. I keep going with this because it's time for mating with Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
We're definitely not going all the way to the bottom of the ocean.
No.
No. 90 meters, I think.
All right.
Yeah. 72.
Now, these guys are basically solitary except during the breeding season.
Yeah.
I heard that multiple males share the same hole.
Heyo.
I only found that in one or two, and they are all tied in. And trust me, I went down probably 30 different articles and papers, and that was an extremely minority thing. They think that possibly they did it just before the male was going to transform,
Well, I think
because these guys live up to 20 years.
in all seriousness, they said that they're not very territorial. So if they have a good hiding place,
No.
they're okay
Yeah.
with another one slipping
Except for during breeding season.
Right.
Then they're very territorial.
in.
And
Well, what color are you?
yeah, I think if you'll recall, also every time you found that particular statement, it said months or 2 years.
Yes.
So I would believe months over years, but
Yes.
at the same time,
Yeah.
you know, just because you spot two males together in the same hole.
Doesn't mean
Well, it's funny
Hey.
that once again the internet became super small.
You're into
on
some
this
weird
one.
shit.
yeah.
Like how many times did you literally read the paragraph with the lagoon? You know, it was in
Yeah.
half of them.
Right.
This was one of the silliest searches that I think I've been on.
Right.
Now, their breeding season is between October and March, and basically water temperatures rising is what triggers it. Now, the males engage in a ritual to attract the females. What they do is they come out
Skateboarding.
a little bit further out of their burrows. They start to undulate and gaping more so than normal, and they expand their mouths to make themselves look
Oh,
bigger.
the mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that part, George. And of course, this has a twofold thing. First off, it keeps other males out of their territory, but also attracts the ladies.
Yeah. Well, there's got to be a lot of gaping when you get two men in the same hole.
Yeah.
You're also in a really weird part of the internet.
I didn't go down that hole.
Yeah. Be like, I found it on a site that sells caviar.
Now, also, their color becomes more intense at this time.
Yeah, it does.
Now,
What?
when she finds a suitable mate, she joins him in his burrow site to breed. Now, the pair will intertwine with the female laying eggs, which are leaf-shaped, which the male then fertilizes. Now, two sites said that they're in the burrow, but the 90% of everything says that the eggs are then put out into the
Right. Broadcast.
broadcast.
I don't believe that.
That's everything I found
No.
about mating as well.
Yes,
that-
they were broadcast out into the
So they do
water
it in the
column.
hole and then they shove them out.
No, they're not in the
No.
hole. They're not in the hole to breed. They're in the breeding near his burrow in his territory.
I think the male just skeets while the eggs are coming out,
Yes, pretty much.
they float to the surface of the
Yes.
water.
And
which is how the majority of, especially in a coral
yes,
reef situation,
Yeah.
the majority of things that breed, that's the way it
pretty
Right.
goes.
much.
They,
Yes.
like throw it out there because get it away from
Right.
where all the fish are eating and where all the
I imagine it like if you had a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios and then you pour your milk in and all the Cheerios float to the top.
Pretty much like that.
and then you fling it across the room.
Right.
No, I
Yeah,
don't
and then you
usually
drop
do
a
that.
huge strawberry into it and boom, it makes the most beautiful splash. I think that's just marketing, but
That is.
yeah, you'll never think of cereal the same way, folks.
Now, the eggs generally float around in the top 100 to 150 feet of the water column. 1 month after the female mates, she dies.
Yeah.
She's pretty much done. Now, these animals can live up to 20 years. The males do not become sexually mature until they're 5 to 7 years old.
Mm.
And also, their larvae, when they hatch out, are translucent. So basically, you can see through them. And they're one of the larger of the eel larvae. They don't start transforming until they're about 16 inches,
Mm.
that's pretty damn big.
I believe all eels are translucent when they're
Yes,
in the
they are.
larval stage, freshwater or saltwater, which is an odd thing.
Now,
Right.
they hatch in about 8 weeks.
So
and
they stay in stealth mode till they're like 16 inches. They're still
That specific one, they are most of them are between 8 and 9 inches.
they're like cloaked like a predator.
Now, they're the larval when they're in that larval form. They're called leptocephali. When that's all eel larvae. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they say they don't know because they are so. There have been a few breedings in public aquariums, but they think it was just
public.
public.
Yeah. I was thrown into public.
Pubic aquariums.
Never owned one.
Yeah. But and again, in
Mark, you were in the trade.
yeah, in aquarium commercial big aquariums, and but they've never. It's always been a one and done thing, and it was just with recently captured.
Right.
They don't do that well in captivity.
Right.
No, it
And-
sounded really shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how they even transition from male to female is totally unknown also
Right.
because it's never been witnessed. And
Right.
I believe that it's still just really a hypothesis. You know, they assume that this is what's going on, and you can probably extrapolate that because of what you said about the clownfish and the
Yes.
sheephead, that there's a lot of, aquatic animals doing this similar process, but being so secretive, they've never found one that's changing.
Well, most of them do it out of necessity, where this was, I mean, it's portrayed as all of them do it,
Right.
right?
Well, and again,
I don't
all
see
the
the point. I
clownfish
don't see
do
the
it.
point in that.
All the
Right.
sheepheads do it, and it's just basically. Now there are some freshwater species like guppies, and platies, and swordtails.
But I mean, they're inferring that this animal, all of the males transform into females.
Correct, as does
Well,
clownfish
I don't get the point of that.
and sheepheads.
Well, I think that you're talking, that's the hard part about trying to put a number, especially, or even a threat status on these guys, is I think, like what Mark said, after transitioning to a female, they die a month after they mate.
Yeah.
So those have to be the ones that, and even, that 20 years is totally estimated also.
Yeah.
I don't know how they actually know. They're figuring this out somehow, but you'd have to think that's, I mean, that really sucks if that's the
and part
point
of it
where
is-
these things go female is at 20 years and it's the only time they can
Well,
mate.
no, but you got to realize
It's
too.
impossible that they change right when they get to their maximum age. That's silly.
I don't know.
Well, no, that's basically what it is. And the reason they can kind of get to that estimate is they don't. Once they have their territory, they're there.
But you can't
So
live to be
it's like
20.
it's like the wolf fields. They're always in that spot. So unless something takes them out, eats them or whatever, they're always in that spot. So that's why they're thinking that they're close to 20 years, because these guys are hanging out there. The males are,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, they're gone, and it could be they transitioned. And and again,
I
that
just
1
thought they
month.
lost their sense of humor once they turned
Yeah.
female.
That may be the most accurate thing we say all day. But,
That was
this
really
is
bad.
Yeah. Hey-oh.
Yeah.
I knew it. Yeah.
Had to get one in there.
Right. But this is where, I was thinking that we're going to have more of a discussion about this animal, obviously. And I think this might be the bright spot of coming up with an animal that we don't necessarily have all the information on, because we get to kind of make some crap up and, actually do what we used to do and talk about, well, how do you think this freaking happens? It's really George's favorite part of all of this.
Because there's so many questions about. I mean, you can't find out how old they are when they make the switch.
Right.
and you can't. They lived a maximum of 20 years. Well, they don't make the switch at 20 years.
Yeah, and it almost sounds like you and I were going down
Well-
the same road with the males cohabitating together. That at some point you go, "Hey, Harry, yeah, how about it's Sally time?" You know, like,
Guess what?
yeah, I'll have what he's having, right?
But they don't get that extra length until they transition,
Right, but
and that's so they can produce more eggs.
yeah, and it's, I mean,
Okay, and how many eggs do they make?
yeah, I didn't, I
couldn't
never
find
found
that
a
anywhere.
number. Yeah,
One of
I
them
don't
said
care.
4 to 8. And I'm going, bullshit. You're not going to go through all that trouble for 4 to 8 eggs.
right,
Yeah, no.
48,000 maybe. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, even the, I mean, how common are leaf-shaped eggs?
I would say probably not fairly common, but if you think about it, they're going to float better. I mean,
I
they'll
mean,
get
more
sucked up
surface area,
yeah.
right?
then why aren't all eggs shaped like that are inner ocean?
Well, some are oval, some are round. There could be other ones. We just haven't walked into it.
Yeah, and I think
I don't know what other eels do in terms of what their egg shapes are.
right.
It's like I said before, there's a lot unknown about eels, period.
Yeah.
The freshwater eels, they didn't know until just a few years ago that they all go to the Sargasso Sea, and they still don't know how they actually do it.
Right.
They just know they go there,
Well,
and
and
then they all die.
right. And I mean, I find it interesting as well that, you know, they know the shape of the eggs, but they don't know how many an adult could lay.
No,
Like,
I
how
think
how do we even know the shape?
honestly, I think they're making it up.
Well, and again, it could be
There's no proof that they aren't.
there have been, like I said, they've had breedings in aquariums.
Let's see a picture of it.
Yeah.
And they're, you know,
I want to see a RibbonEel doing it, Max.
No, there's one with two holes. There's one hole and two of them sticking out, but they're both the same color.
Right.
So
I
don't buy it.
did see a video of them not actually mating, but the males doing their dance with females in the area.
I just saw male on male.
Yeah, that was a rabbit hole we didn't need to go down.
It's pretty typical for you, George.
Yeah. I was in the pool. That didn't even make sense there, but
No, it didn't.
still
but
funny.
That's all right.
Costanza. So I guess we can do a little bit of behavior stuff here. I don't have a whole lot in this section as well. So they like relatively shallow water. We already talked about that. They always look pissed off. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
We already talked about they're not actually pissed off. They're breathing, and they have to. Well, we didn't talk about this.
No,
but
but
they're
that's typical
they're
eel
opening
thing,
and closing their mouths. And eels are one of the few fish that actually have kind of a pump system that they can actually pump water over their gills, so they can be relatively sedentary. They don't have to be moving. And when these things move, though, they look absolutely badass. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it looks like, you know, like rhythmic gymnastics when
Oh.
you're whipping the ribbon back and forth.
It's weirder than that. It looks like they're not moving. Like each coil goes into the exact place where the previous one was, and when you see the end of it go by, it's like a what do you call a sine wave? A sine wave.
Right.
It looks just like that, where each wave is going into the
Right.
very next one exactly. It doesn't even look like it's moving.
Kind of like the classic old-timey map depictions of like sea serpents. It's just like the perfect,
The
know,
gymnastic ribbon thing is a really good analogy for how they move.
yeah.
Kind of like the old Chinese dragon
But
thing.
what's
Yeah.
weird is you're never going to see them in that. Like they got drug out into that position because their place is in a hole. They're
Right.
not going to go out swimming around like that because it's not efficient.
Right.
They're not fast.
Yeah. And that was, one place that we got, Mark and I talked about it earlier this week, that, there's a lot of...
Oh, you're talking about eels without me.
Yeah, we were. But there was a lot of stuff to do with, it says that in captivity they don't live longer than a month. And I ran into a couple of things that folks that do have aquariums had found a way that you could bury like a 2 to 3 foot piece of PVC and actually give them their privacy. Because what happens is when they get stressed, they stop eating. And once something stops eating, what happens is you die. It's true for just about anything. But I don't know if there's been any advances, but in all the articles, what's the other thing you ran into? Extremely rare in aquariums or public aquariums in particular.
I think they bait a lot of people too in the trade with just for advanced aquarium people. So everybody goes, well, I'm going to have a go at that. I think I'm advanced.
Right.
So they get one of them and then it dies.
Right.
And they're not willing to go the whole.
Yep. And
9
another
yards.
$50 goes back to the Philippines.
They were like 150 to 250.
Damn.
They're not cheap.
Right. And it's really, if you get a month out of them, I guess maybe to some people that's worth it or something.
I think it's sick.
How often you'd actually see them, because even in the aquariums I read, if you have a place they can hide, they're going to hide. They're nocturnal. If you have the lights on, they're going to hide. Yeah. They come out at night. You'd have to almost put them on like one of those reverse cycles, the way that some of those lizard nuts enjoy their lizards.
Of all of the aquarium animals I've read about, it's probably the sickest. It's just like, leave them alone. There's no point in.
Well, threats is a fun way to end this show today too, but we might as well get down the road while Mark's not here to interrupt us. Yeah, we interrupt him. He doesn't interrupt us, right, George? If you ever see an eel while snorkeling, you can almost imagine them growling at you, and I think that's one of the fun tricks our brains do to assume danger. You'd still end up with a pretty nasty cut if you did manage to get bitten by one, because although their teeth are tiny, they're tiny razors. They can sense vibrations with those fine nostrils, and that helps them find food and sense the danger of predators. They're nocturnal, so consider yourself lucky if you see one in the daylight. They prefer to spend their time hidden in cracks and crevices and buried directly in the sand or mud. Juveniles spend most of their time alone, but adults have been known to inhabit the same burrows for sometimes years. But we just proved that no one knows that. Months, I believe. Years, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I agree.
How many years?
Right. Yeah, and I don't even have anything more than that, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Did you find any curious behaviors, Mark?
Nothing more than what you mentioned, Bob.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, there wasn't many. You didn't miss a whole lot. Right.
No, I'm saying it was.
Yeah.
The curses of slamming two beers before we got here in 20 minutes.
Eels aren't big swimmers. All that motion we're talking about, that's not their natural way to go. None of the eels like just swimming around for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be just kind of a waste of energy in terms of being an eel, I guess.
They're not very good at it.
Right.
Their fins are insufficient to have any real locomotion.
Well, and some of them, they're so brightly colored that they make a quick and easy snack for, they have a lot of predators.
Oh,
they'll
they do.
They'll yard them out of those cracks and crevices. There's something built to kill everything, especially in the ocean. That's a scary place.
Even the larvae, the reason they're transparent is so that they kind of blend in. It's hard to see, but once you're approaching 16 inches, my God. I read an article. These guys were out swimming in off the waters of Indonesia, or trying to figure out what these new species was, and then after they did a little research and study and realized that some of them
were girls.
Even in the larval stage. When they were at their full length, they had started developing the little leaf-like nostrils. It's like, oh, we know what those are.
Right.
Okay, well, we didn't discover something new.
Yeah, sea noodles.
Yeah.
Threats isn't a very fun place today, but it did take me to being more of a George believer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this is... George, you're going to love this. The IUCN Red List has them listed as least concern, but I don't think they know jack diddly squat.
No,
I said that already. They also haven't been assessed in 15 years as of February 4th, 2024. So that goes all the way back to 2009 was the last time anybody even gave a crap about, anything.
Yeah, but to do an assessment over that massive amount of ocean.
And here's the thing. everything you look at on even the IUCN Red List, population unknown, subpopulations unknown.
Yeah.
Everything is freaking unknown about these. They have little to no information. So
which is weird because
Right.
where it lives, you
Right.
would think there'd be more known about it because it's
Right.
not like it's deep sea. It's not. It's
And
not,
No, yeah,
from,
you're
from
right.
what I can determine, that's the only reason they're listed as least concern is because they're spotted in so many places. They're
virtually all warm water corals, short of the Bahamas and
Which basically in the Indo-Pacific area.
right. And here's what's interesting in terms of a threat I hadn't come across before, and it's believed that the aquarium trade is potentially their largest threat, but I didn't realize how rampant cyanide fishing is.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Actually, there was just a report came across my feed the other couple days ago. China's hitting the waters of the Philippines heavy with cyanide.
Well,
Yeah.
that was one of my grievances about them and destroying corals just to get animals like the giant clam. They'll use explosives, cyanide,
Yeah.
whatever to get whatever.
Yeah, dynamite fishing was mentioned along with cyanide fishing as well as, very detrimental to coral habitats in particular.
Right,
Uh,
because
and-
they're after the heavy clams.
Right.
That was the big thing.
And here's some quick facts that I dug up about this. So you guys,
Uh-oh.
if you've got more to say on anything, just jump in there. So the practice is common in Southeast Asia. Origins are uncertain, but it's believed to have originated in the Philippines in the 1950s, and later the practice spread to Indonesia, Thailand, Maldives, and Taiwan. And would anywhere else come to mind, George?
China. The one thing
Right.
is that it isn't like what it sounds. It doesn't like kill all the animals that are in there.
Right.
It is they use it as a stun,
Mm-hmm.
and then whatever floats up.
Yeah, and that's a weird part of cyanide is in seawater, cyanide actually changes into, I believe it's a sodium atom and a cyanide atom or something. It actually splits when it's poured into the water. In our bodies, it prevents us from being able to carry oxygen in our blood cells.
Correct.
And you'd be dead within about 30
Yeah.
minutes. And even at low dose, cyanide can cause long-term disabilities, even with minute doses
Yeah.
of cyanide. So it's very deadly to humans.
I will tell you that stores that are selling saltwater, wild caught saltwater fish, the ones that advertise net caught,
Mm-hmm.
do the best
Yeah.
because the cyanide, yes, it weakens them, and so they do not survive as well in captivity because they've already had,
Right.
that going against them.
Yeah. And we're actually heading exactly down that road. It was first used to capture fish for the aquarium trade, but then became a popular way to catch food fish as well. And some of the main targets of that being grouper, wrasse, and coral trout. While it's illegal pretty much in every country where it's practiced, it is minimally enforced. These stats are old, but I ran into this at the last second, so I'm going with it. And since it's honestly scary to think that these numbers are probably low, considering that this is so old, the World Resources Institute determined that approximately 20% of live fish traded on the Philippine market in 1996 were caught using cyanide. If you use that same percentage and apply it to the other countries known to engage in this method, at that time, it was between almost 11,000 to 12.7 thousand metric tons.
Yeah.
And the worst part of it is when caught this way for the aquarium trade, the fish are packed in plastic bags and up to 2/3 die during transport. Estimates on exported hobby fish from the Philippines suggest that 70 to 90% are caught via cyanide.
Yep.
This has led to some collectors to pay a premium for net caught fish because they tend to live longer as the process isn't as stressful for the animals. And when used for food fish, it's estimated that the combination of cyanide and the stress induced from post-capture handling results in a mortality rate up to 75% within less than 48 hours. So that's a huge problem because the remaining 25% has to be enough for these quote-unquote fishermen to make a living. So they have to catch an absolute buttload of fish because only 25% can be brought to market because... No worries.
And
the
you're
fish,
talking live food fish.
the fish that make it to market, go into a clean water tank for at least 10 to 14 days before you can buy it. So you can guarantee they're purged of all cyanide at that point.
No, you can't.
Right. Which,
I know.
And this doesn't specifically, I mean, this probably is how a lot of ribbon eels are captured to this day because this is the area where you're finding them.
Yeah, and
Because you can't just pull them out of their hole.
Right. That's
they-
too easy.
and they are
They would
eaten.
be kind of hard to net.
They are eaten too.
Yeah.
I did see a
It doesn't
couple
seem
break-
like it would be much of a meal.
No, but I mean, it's it's like anything else. It's food.
Right.
There's a lot better eels to eat, but most of them are freshwater.
Yeah.
Japanese do a lot of freshwater.
Well, I think,
conger.
not that it relates all that much, but even when we talked about the electric eel and you kind of, George, went over the process of, how they'd basically, catch them in all those dried up, whatever was left over of a pond. And it didn't sound like an appetizing meal. And I don't know
No,
if that's eel in
they-
general, but, electric eels are freshwater. So,
Electric eels aren't eels.
well, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
But all the other eels,
Yeah.
are entirely edible, except, as we all know, their blood is toxic.
I did not know that.
Until you cook it.
Huh.
Yeah, even
It's that cyanide.
no, even slightly warm. No, it's a weird toxin that causes all kinds of things. But it isn't necessarily deadly. Like you'd have to drink a bunch of it to
Right.
actually have it be a problem.
Let's bring it on.
Yeah.
But it is
It's like how many apple seeds you'd have to eat. Right.
a lot like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is poisonous.
Yeah.
It's a anticoagulant.
Huh.
As long as you don't mind bloody stool. And,
Yeah. Well, I think I read that even nutmeg can be deadly if you were to eat like the ground contents of like 54 nuts or something. So,
Is that arsenic and
I can't remember what's in
I thought it was
nutmeg, but
arsenic.
I thought also there's something about nutmeg that in high levels you can actually hallucinate and stuff from nutmeg anyway.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
George tried it.
Right.
It
No,
don't work.
Yeah.
When I was
How many
in high
banana
school,
peels did you smoke?
Only one time.
I think we all smoked banana peels one time.
I did not.
Yeah, and oregano, parsley,
No,
anything
no,
green in your mom's
no,
spice cabinet.
No, no.
Right.
no.
Yeah.
No,
Old broccoli that you thought was weed in the crisper drawer.
If you want to know about eating eels, the Japanese are by far the place to go for that.
Yeah.
They eat eel all the time, but it's all essentially grilled and then a little barbecue sauce put on it. It's kind of sweet. It's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't that like the dragon roll? The one that has
No,
or is it the caterpillar?
No, they just you can get it just as sashimi if you want.
Ah.
Yeah.
But it's simply it's always grilled, always has like a light barbecue on it. I always eat it for dessert after I've had
I've had it
sushi
on a
meal.
nigiri.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the most
it's-
common way to.
It's
to have
really
it.
good. That's one of Debbie's favorite.
It's got some. It's a little bony for me, but
No, this is just a little fatty.
I was
It's
gonna
real
say, yeah.
fatty.
Uh.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
I really like
It
it.
is. It's yeah.
But that's how they always eat it. And really, if you want to refer back to whether a fish is okay to eat, you need to go to the Japanese because they have it down.
for sure. I mean, if you're gonna like send people to school for 3 years to learn how to not kill people eating fugu,
Right.
they've studied their fishes for a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they have.
they know all the poisons.
Yeah. Yeah. This fish kill, this fish good. Right. Like, okay, that's enough Japanese accent.
Fugu.
Death by fugu. Yeah. All right. George, what did you think of this non-stout NA stout?
It's good. I just doesn't strike me as stout.
So it grew on you,
No,
but still doesn't give you any notes of a stout.
No, but I am still messed up from the
Oh,
COVID.
because I find it to be, pretty dark, roasty. It's
Yeah.
got everything that
Kind of
I would normally
almost
find in a stout.
like a bitter sweet chocolate,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of coffee.
hint of
Right.
tea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of an unsweetened cocoa
Yeah.
little hit to it.
And it
It's
works really well with these
Yeah,
cigars.
yeah.
Those
And
were
it's
awesome.
it's a wee bit dry. And yeah, I mean, I guess number on the stout, NA wise, I'd go with
7.
I'm going an 8. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I have been enjoying the darker NAs a little more than, it does a little more justice.
Yeah. I'm going to go with an 8.25.
Yeah.
it.
Chocolate sticks. I think we've been on a roll
Oh,
snack
yeah.
wise. I'm probably going to be another like 9.5 on those things. I almost wish there was a little bit more of the chocolatey filling inside the cigar.
So you can't see through it?
Right. But I mean, like
Oh.
I said, when I was growing up, you can totally drink
Yeah.
milk through these. They're fun for kids. Right.
I'm going to go 9.
Cocaine.
Yeah. I'm going to go 9.5.
Yeah, we don't advocate cocaine.
9.5.
9.5.
Yeah.
These are
Across the
awesome.
board, 9.5.
I want to stop talking about them because I have to pee.
Okay.
All right. Well, George is done. Just
All
kind of
right.
go free the RibbonEel.
Yes.
Is his blue or yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old ginger RibbonEel.
It's translucent.
Yeah. Well, I know at one point he got a bruise so bad it was black. So that's when he was a juvenile, though, so it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But then it did turn blue and then yellow again.
Peace out, folks.
Yeah. More penis next week.
Goodbye.